All right. It has been a while since we've done a Saturday stream because I usually work on Saturdays, but here we are doing the top five albums of the year 1972, which is a logical conclusion to our video top five albums of 1971. Hey, music fans, and how's it going? Scott here, and along with my friend Nick, aka the Ox today, we got a pretty fun video here. I actually have most of my top five albums of 1972 on record, and they're sitting right here. It's why I've got my magical glow ball of destiny or whatever here, and I can hold them up. But if you haven't watched any of our top five album series of the 1970s, we give our top five alternating, or sorry, our top four alternating, give some honorable mentions, and then give our album of the year to the year, which of course this is 1972. So, Nick, do you have any general thoughts about the year 1972 before we get into it?
It's a good year. Definitely not as good as the year before and then the year after it, in my opinion. I know you said 71 starting to become one of your least favorites, but I don't know. I couldn't even think of 10 honorable mentions. Last year, there were so many like battling to be in my top 10 honorable mentions along with top five along my honorable mentions. I even forgot a bunch like Muswell Hillbillies by the Kinks. Now this year, oh, speaking of the Kinks, I just thought of one. Yeah, it's a good year, but not wouldn't consider it to be essential.
So, honestly, for me, I like the mid and late 70s better than the early 70s, but that doesn't mean the early 70s are bad. They're still absolutely amazing. I'm just going to say that for the early 70s, I kind of like the singer-songwriter stuff better. And then later 70s, I like kind of the more rock music because they're getting more experimental with it. So, I'm just be forewarned that I have a lot of singer-songwriter type albums in my top five. There is one particular rock album, though, and it is one of the big ones. But that's just hinting at what I've got in my list. Without
Oh
further
man,
ado,
I can't believe I forgot about the one album. Thank you for reminding me.
yeah.
You mentioned singer songwriter, and there's a certain artist that came to mind. Thank you.
All right.
Maybe I will have 10 honorable mentions.
Cool.
Uh, my number five on my list is going to be "Close to the Edge" by Yes, and Yes is a great way to putting it. This is I can't say this is their 2112 because this is before 2112.
2112
Uh,
was Rush's Close to the Edge, I guess.
that's sadly that's how I'm gonna have to put it. The first track on the album right away, it's just like well, not right away, but like one epic sidelong epic. This and another sidelong epic on a different album that I will be mentioning here on our stream. That's not going to be for a while now, but yeah, Close to the Edge. The other two songs are great too, but the first song, man, is it epic. Close to the Edge, number five.
I'm wondering if I should make a cassette mixtape called like Long Prog and have Close to the Edge, 2112, Tarkus, and Hemispheres on there.
You should also include Supper's Ready.
Oh yeah, instead of Hemispheres, because to get four different bands. That would be an interesting mixtape. Okay, my number five. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to be including that album on my list solely because I've only heard the first half, the title song, so I can't talk about the other two songs. And the rule is you have to have heard the full album if you want to include it on the list. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to. I need to listen to the other two because I've heard really good things about the other two songs, especially the song "And You and I." I've heard that one's really great. But my number five album of 1972, and this is kind of a mix between singer-songwriter and rock. The Doobie Brothers, Toulouse Street. This is kind of what I consider to be the Doobie Brothers' real debut album. They had one before, but it's not exactly very good. This right here, though, is kind of whenever the Doobie Brothers get like that sound that you know them for. That like breezy country rock kind of sound. This has some of their most well-known songs on it, like "Listen to the Music" and "Jesus is Just All Right with Me." but it's also got some other great stuff on here. I love Rocking Down the Highway. That one is great. Cottonmouth. Don't Start Me to Talkin', White Sun, Disciple, Snake Man. Yeah, the B-side is absolutely amazing on this one. But this is a great early Doobies record. I, heads up, love both eras of the Doobie Brothers, the early country rock stuff and the later Michael McDonald stuff that you might call that Doobie Dan, but I'm a big fan of Steely Dan, so I love the Michael McDonald stuff as well. And Minute by Minute may or may not be making it into my top albums of 1978. You'll have to find out. But number 5, Toulouse Street by the Doobie Brothers.
My number 4 is going to be an album by a singer-songwriter that me and Jason have been talking about a lot. That's going to be John Denver. It's going to be his album Rocky Mountain High. Yeah, I'm going to have to look at the track list because I only listened to it once, and usually unless I listen to the album a bunch of times, I don't really know the track listing, but it was good enough to be in my top 5. Bet Jason's really happy about that. I would be. The title track, of course, very iconic John Denver song. Mother's Nature's Son, great Beatle cover. Paradise is great. For Baby is great. Darcy Pharaoh is amazing. Prisoner is amazing. This whole album is just amazing, but the real cream of the crop is on the second side of the record with the season suite: summer, fall, winter, late winter, early spring, and spring song. All 5 of those songs are just cream of the crop. John Denver. It's definitely my second or favorite John Denver album as of right now. But yeah, this is an amazing album. I'm so glad John Denver was introduced to me again by Jason from the Old Millennial. Hats off to him.
Unfortunately, I can't include him in my list either because I haven't listened to a full John Denver album. But I bet I need to fix that. We should definitely do Rocky Mountain High as a review on the channel sometime with all 4 of us. All right, my number 4 album of 1972 is one that I actually, let's see. Yep, it's one that I don't have, but it's one that I need to get. It's one of the big classic rock albums of all time, and that is Machine Head by Deep Purple. So, like, right off the bat, you're hit in the face with Highway Star, which the great thing about this particular album is the keyboard player, John Lord. Like, he is just absolutely insane on the organ and the keys. He just, like, every song is just like, and the singer Ian Gillan is amazing as well. Richie Blackmore, the guitar player, drummer Ian Pace. Yeah, it's all of the musicianship on this is amazing. And of course, it also has the famous song "Smoke on the Water" on it. One of, if not the first song, a lot of people learn to play on guitar in one way or another, even if they play it incorrectly, which is absolutely an amazing song. I love the guitar riff on that, and it's funny because it's about a real story that happened where somebody shot a flare gun at a concert and burnt down a casino, and they had to get everybody out of there. Also, other memorable tracks include Lazy, that's a really great bluesy song, and the closing song Space Truckin' is also really good. So Machine Head by Deep Purple, number 4.
Yeah, I never listened to that album in its entirety, so I can't put it in the honorable discs or in my top 5. Number 3 is a Stevie Wonder album, and that is Music of My Mind. It is his first album of this year, and this was basically, his previous album that I mentioned on the channel in 1971. It's basically him getting basically him writing his music, basically him experimenting a little bit with his music than he was with My Sherry War and Science Field Deliver, those albums. And he liked it, but then after his contract ended, he was like, look, I want more money. I want full creative control. I want all my songs to be only written by me. I want basically all the control you had on me from previous albums in the 60s and a tiny bit on the previous album. I don't want that anymore. I want to make my own creative album. I want to make something that's in my mind. Music of my mind. And
And look what happened.
What?
We've got all the amazing 70s albums with Stevie Wonder.
Yes, exactly. And people might argue that Talking Book was his first classic period Stevie Wonder album. Some people might argue this one's the classic Stevie Wonder album. Some people argue that the last album, Where I'm Coming From, is his. But no, I consider this to be the start of it because this is basically his first. This was like the redo deal. They gave him full creative control, and this album's amazing. It didn't do quite well because this was a lot different than what he was doing before. This was inspired by Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On" album. Like he loved that album. He wanted to make something unique like that, and he made this album, and it's amazing. I mean, it's number 3 on my list, so I should tell you how good it is.
Talking Book is probably number 6 on my list, like the very first honorable mention. And I've only heard it like once or twice, so I bet if I heard it a few more times, it would probably be way higher up on the list too, because I remember it being really good.
Oh yeah.
So my number 3. Let me just let you guys know something real quick. There's 3 or 4 things you need to know. You don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't spit into the wind. You don't pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger. And you don't mess around with Jim. Number 3. So this album right here is absolutely fantastic. Jim Croce, one of the great singer-songwriters of the early 70s, starts off with the title track, You Don't Mess Around with Jim. I love that song. Just like starting the record, you get the bump, 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 bump. Uptown got its hustlers. Downtown got its bums. Yeah, that one's really great. Funny story about like Big Jim, the kind of the crime boss of the neighborhood, and he gets beat up by Slim in the pool hall. Tomorrow's Gonna Be a Brighter Day is also amazing. I love New York's Not My Home with the string arrangement. That's one of my favorites on the album. Hard Time Losing Man is a great upbeat number. Photographs and Memories, absolutely amazing. Walking Back to Georgia is another good one. Operator is probably my favorite song on the album. I just love the guitar playing on that song and just the storytelling in his voice that he does on that one. And then another great song, like these are all great songs, but Time in a Bottle, that's an absolutely fantastic song. Again, great guitar playing. I like the hypnotic sound of it, like the do 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 do. Rapid Roy, that stock car boy. That's another great upbeat one. He got a tattoo on his arm that says baby, and he got another one that just say hey. Box number 10. Okay, when I first heard box number 10, I thought, hold on a second, this sounds like Let It Be by the Beatles, but it's just the chord progression. The melody's completely different. And a long time ago in Hey Tomorrow. Yeah, great album. Number 3 of 1972, You Don't Mess Around with Jim.
That's another album I need to listen to in its entirety.
It's absolutely
number
fantastic.
2. Yeah, my number 2 is going to be the album that came after Music of My Mind, and that's Talking Book, second album of 1972. I don't know if I put any of these. I don't know if I put Music of My Mind in my list last time, but it definitely deserves to be on there. Talking Book, You Are the Sunshine of My Life. That song is well worth its popularity. Maybe Your Baby is definitely the weakest song on the album. It feels long. It's good, but it's not what it's not the best. You got
It's kind of funny though what they do when they spit up his voice.
Yeah. You and I love that song. That's one of his best songs. Tuesday Heartbreak is really good. I didn't like it at first, but it grew on me. Same with You've Got a Bad Girl. Those 2 songs are like, really? But the real cream of the crop is side 2. Superstition, amazing song. That goes into Big Brother, which is amazing. That every song goes into each other. That goes into Blame It on the Sun, which is one of his best songs. That goes into Looking for Another Pure Love. And that goes into I Believe When I Fell in Love, which is one of my all-time favorite Stevie Wonder closing tracks on an album.
I'm gonna need to listen to this album again because, like, you're reminding me of all the good songs on it, and it might be my number 5 or 4, or maybe even 3 album after I listen to it again. I think my favorite is You and I think was my favorite song on the album.
Yeah, it reminds me of something that would be on Pet Sounds. Like,
yeah,
Like if Stevie Wonder did Pet Sounds, it would be like one of those songs would be on there.
My second favorite is Superstition, just because of that groove.
Oh yeah, Jeff Beck did a really good. Like I think Jeff Beck wrote the drum part on it. I could be wrong.
What's cool is I
something.
think like Stevie Wonder like plays all the different instruments on that album too. Like
Yeah, it's very
McCartney did on
impressive.
the McCartney album.
I mean, same with what Pete Townsend did on his first album, Who Came First.
Okay, my number 2 album. So people who watched the original 1972 video are going to notice that something that was in my top 3 is missing now, and that's just because that particular album is one I respect more than I actually listen to a lot. So instead of number 2 being that, it's going to be, and I'll talk about that in the honorable mentions, just so I don't ruin what's number 1. But number 2, Honky Chateau by Elton John. Yeah, this is the first Elton John album where he gets the classic Elton John band. Everything's kind of coming together. I mean, Elton John has had just this amazing streak of albums up until now, and this is where it gets really, really, really good. Well, I think his first album, or sorry, his second album, the self-titled one, might be my favorite, but I just like feel like he just gets progressively better after that album, even though it it's kind of difficult what I'm explaining here, but he's got the first amazing album and then second album, whatever it is, the self-titled Elton John album, and then he's got like Tumbleweed Connection, which is also absolutely amazing, and then it gets even better with Madman Across the Water, and then it gets even better with this album here. Honky Cat is a great upbeat, like boom, 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 boom. I love the piano on that one. Mellow is a cool song with a electric violin solo. So if you've never heard an electric violin, have a listen to Mellow by Elton John. And I really love I don't know why, I just really love when he goes, "Ooh, I'm feeling mellow." I don't know why. Rocket Man is the big hit on this album. That's a really great one. I've always loved the song Rocket Man. And then on the B-side, Salvation, Slave, Amy, that's a really good funky number. My favorite song on this album, though, is Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatters. That song is absolutely amazing. I love the piano on that. Just the poetic lyrics about going to New York City, because he's from England, and getting to experience New York for the first time. And then it ends with a fun little number called Hercules. A cat called Hercules. That one's fun as well. I like the piano on that. But this is an absolutely amazing Elton John album. And probably if you're just getting into Elton John, this is probably a good one to start with. Honky Chateau.
I mean, that was the first album I ever heard by him. That was before meeting Gareth. That was just an album I heard. For my audible mentions, I'm going to be going. I actually did come up with 10. These are going to be actually in order from weakest to best. It's going to be basically from 15 all the way to 6. I'm just going to be naming the albums. Everybody's in Showbiz by the Kinks. Definitely step down from their other albums, especially from the 60s. It's good enough to be in the honorable mentions, but it's definitely a dip in quality after Lola and Arthur and Village Green and something else, Bear Trees by Fleetwood Mac. Another album to me that's a step down from the previous one from them. Definitely not as good as Future Games.
Yeah.
Romany by the Hollies. This is with their temporary lead singer. Forgot his name, but it's a step down from their previous album.
What's funny about that album is it's like the Distant Light cover, but in like instead of springtime, it's in wintertime. I think that's interesting.
Oh yeah, I thought that was cool. Not only that, but the person on the cover is basically what their lead singer was, and the Distant Light was basically their lead singer with Alan Clark. I thought that was cool too. 12 is Harvest by Neil Young. This wasn't a step down. This is actually a step up, which is good. Honky Chateau by Elton John. Great album. Can't Buy a Thrill by Steely Dan. Can't Believe the Sound Never Grew on Me by Exile on Main Street by the Rolling Stones. I would never put it up with Aftermath or Between the Buttons, but It's definitely better than some of their weaker '80s albums. Ziggy Stardust by David Bowie. That's a great album. Black Sabbath Volume 4, Black Sabbath's fourth album. Definitely a step down from their previous three albums. Well, not from their second album, but the first and third album were better. And then lastly, for my album mentions, Who Came First by Pete Townsend.
Okay. I'm trying to think of what I would put in my honorable mentions. Look at the lists. Paul Simon's self-titled album. That's a great one. Thick as a Brick by Jethro Tull. Yeah, that was in my top 3 before, but like I said, I kind of more respect that album than I do listen to it a lot. And Stevie Wonder, Talking Book.
Good. My favorite album of 1972 is an album by Genesis with.
Oh yeah, no, that's in my honorable mentions too.
Foxtrot by Genesis. This is the second year in a row Genesis won Album of the Year. Congratulations, Peter Gabriel. You're doing a good job. Can't say for the next year because Genesis had a lot of competition that year. But
oh yeah,
Foxtrot, yeah, Quadrophenia, Elton John, they had too much competition that year.
Next year,
2 years though, it's gonna be a big year. Yeah. Foxtrot though, Watcher of the Skies. Oh my God, that organ in the beginning, it's just, oh man, it's just. I bought the album, but that's how good it is, of course. Timetable, man, is that song amazing. Get 'Em Out by Friday's good. Can Utility in the Coastliners is amazing. Horizons, even though it's a short instrumental, it's amazing. And it ends on the best song on the album, Supper's Ready. Man, Supper's Ready. Oh my God. That song is just. That was when I first heard the album, it was too much to take the first listen, but not that I'm giving this song I always liked, but after giving it more listens, the album, this song just I found a new appreciation for this song. I'm going to say what Garrett said about moving pictures. After listening to other Genesis albums, Peter Gabriel, like Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, Nursery Crime, Trespass, and all that, it just gave me a new appreciation for this album even more. Just listening to the ones that came before it and the ones that came after it, and I'm gonna make it no secret. This is definitely my favorite era of Genesis. Nothing against the Phil Collins era. Some Peter Gabriel fans like to really crap on that era of Genesis. I actually quite like it, but to me, it has no competition against the Peter Gabriel stuff, especially Foxtrot, one of my all-time favorite albums of all time. But yeah, it's my number one pick.
My number one pick, and if you've been around this channel anytime, you're probably going to be like, oh, yeah, that's no surprise. Can't Buy a Thrill by Steely Dan. Yeah, when I first heard this album, I was like, wow, that is amazing. I just love the kind of like smooth sound that Steely Dan has, and I know that this particular album they're kind of more of a traditional band, so they're mixing that smooth jazzy sound with some kind of traditional singer-songwriter and rock kind of sounds. But this is the one album you get with the original lead vocalist David Palmer, who Donald Fagen hired because he had stage fright. He sings on Brooklyn and what's the other one? Oh, Dirty Work. How can I forget Dirty Work? For some reason I thought I said Dirty Work. For some reason I thought I'd already said Dirty Work, and I was trying to find the name of Brooklyn. But anyway, David Palmer really good on those two songs. But I think the real best songs here is well, even though I love Dirty Work, that's one of my favorites. But Donald Fagen is definitely my favorite of the two singers on here. I love Do It Again and that kind of Latin tinged beat, and some great guitar playing here too by Denny Diaz and Jeff Baxter, who would go on to join the Doobie Brothers after Pretzel Logic. Midnight Cruiser, the only song sung by the drummer Jim Hodder. That's an amazing song. I love that one. Felonious, my old friend. Step
That's my
on
favorite
in,
song by them.
let me
Midnight
take
Cruiser.
your... And that kind of like introduces kind of the big theme of Steely Dan's songs, gentlemen losers. Basically, people who like are like, oh, I'm a gentleman, but like they're in like this bad lifestyle that they can't get out of. And then we have Only a Fool Would Say That, my favorite song on the album, which is a diss track to John Lennon's Imagine. I just love the like smooth sound of it. I've talked a lot about that, but like the just kill vibes of boom, do 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 do. Oh, we'll become one. Salads and sons. Only a fool would say that. And this song, I've said it. I think I put it in the comment on your Bridge Over Troubled Water video. But they started playing an instrumental version of it when I went to a restaurant one time, and I was like, I bet you I'm the only person here who knows this song. But whoever played this, thank you very much. And then the second side starts with Reeling in the Years, which is an absolutely amazing song. Jimmy Page said that was his favorite guitar solo of all time, so that's some pretty high praise right there. It's only their first album, and they're already bringing in session musicians like they would later on with Elliot Randall, who played the guitar intro and solo on this one. And Fire in the Hole, man, I love the piano on Fire in the Hole. It's so good. Donald Fagen showing off his piano skills on here. And Brooklyn, that's the other David Palmer song. I do like both the David Palmer songs. They're both very good. I really wish that David Palmer would have sung the song Pearl of the Quarter on their second album, because whenever I hear it, I'm like, that would really fit his voice. But kind of sad that he left before then. Brooklyn used to be my least favorite on the album, not anymore. I love that song. My least favorite is probably Kings now. Who's calling me? I'll have to call back.
Nice throw though, right?
Yeah. It's my dad. I will call him back after the video. Okay, and what else we got here? Change of the Guard. I love Change of the Guard, and I love Turn That Heartbeat Over Again. So, Steely Dan, Can't Buy a Thrill, number 1. Top album of 1972.
I thought it was your gag at first.
No.
With the phone toss, I'm like, oh, are we doing a gag here?
his first album from England. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching this video. Top 5 albums of 1972. Next time will be 1973. I don't know what we're going to do that. But if you'll join us, hopefully sometime this week, we'll have the Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young Deja Vu album review out, which I'm really looking forward to. We will see you guys in the next video.